Hello everyone. My name is Achyutya Sirgal, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronic and Communication, working in PLD Engineering College, Vashanapitama Dr. Vijay Keddi, College of Engineering and Technology, Vijaypur. So let us discuss today regarding the subject known as embedded system here. Two topics I'm going to discuss here, that is embedded firmware development languages and programming in embedded C here. Okay? Let us move to the next slide here. The first topic which I want to discuss is embedded firmware development languages here. So what is exactly the meaning of this particular heading is, see, firmware is nothing but here, it is again a set of instructions or set of lines here, which could also be called as a software here. Okay, so we are trying to understand this particular embedded firmware development languages here. We have two categories here, either independent language or dependent language here. And that means here either a target processor or controller will be having a specific language here. Okay, that is nothing but here you can have assembly language here, low level language, which are dependent here, right? Target processor or controller is dependent on this particular language, that is assembly language or low level language here. Okay, the second one is independent here. Independent is nothing but here we can write in any language. That is nothing but here I could write in a C language or C++ language or Java language, which is commonly called as a high level language here. But it is not dependent on any particular target or processor here. Okay, so these are the two categories of what you can say that embedded firmware development languages: high level language and low level language here, independent, dependent language. So in this particular topic here, we are going to discuss three approaches here. Okay, three approaches of embedded firmware development languages here. First one is assembly language based development here. Second one is high level language based development. Third one is mixing of these two languages, that is assembly and high level language here. Okay, so one by one we are going to understand and clarify the topic here. Okay, the first one which we want to discuss is assembly language based development here. In this case here, I think you are very well aware of regarding the assembly language, which is nothing but here human readable notations here. Okay, what it is now? Human readable notations it is now. Okay, usually this language is written in terms of certain things called as the mnemonics here. Okay, short forms, mnemonics. Okay, usually this kind of language is having an extension of .asm here, .asm here. And these languages are what you can say that processor or control dependent here. Okay, these languages written for one particular processor may not be utilized for any other particular processor here. Okay, so that is what is drawback we are having here. This machine language here. Okay, machine language is nothing but here which could be understandable by processor here, or you can say that it is been written in terms of ones and zeros here. Okay, what you can say regarding the machine language is it is an interface between the processor and the programmer here, right? Processor and the programmer here. Okay, even today also what it is now, low level languages are utilized for this system related programming here. Remember, system related programming, even now also we try to use this particular assembly language here. Okay, So usually we could say that it is involved in interaction between the OS and the hardware here. Like for example, you can consider the device drivers here. Okay, so so this is what is assembly language based development here, and the, the 4 points I have mentioned here, that is writing a processor or a controller specific machine code here. Okay, usually we are having certain format here which we need to follow here. Okay, and we should write only one line per I mean instructions are written one per line here. Okay, every assembly language program is been split up into the four what you can say that four words here, or you can say four fields here. The first field you can consider it as a label, second field is opcode, third field is operand, fourth field is comments. So let us understand regarding this all four fields here. First one, label. Label is nothing but it is an identifier here, right? It is an identifier, but it is an optional field. It is not necessarily to be utilized here, right? And many times it is been used for representing the memory location or any particular address of a program or any particular portion of the code here. And remember that the maximum length of the label here depends between the assemblers here. Different assemblers will be having a different length of label here, but always will be suffixed by certain thing called as a colon here. And it is going to start with certain valid character here. Okay, and it doesn't contain the numbers here, that is 0 to 9, and it may have a special character as underscore here. So this is what is the discussion with the label, one of the field of the assembly language program here. The second field is opcode. I think you know this one. Opcode is nothing but your operation code, right? Operation code. So what exactly this operation code does here is that it tells the processor or controller what to do, what functionality the processor or control needs to do will be indicated by operation code. Okay, for example, add a comma b. Add is nothing but what here, opcode, operation code. Add is going to indicate, right, the addition needs to be performed here. That's what is opcode. What are the operands here? Next field, it usually gives the additional information here, or you can say the data. Okay, additional information or data on which the particular action needs to be taken here, right? Action or operation needs to be done here. Comments are nothing but here again uh, which indicates what is exactly the intention or the purpose of the instruction here. Okay, intention or purpose of the particular instruction, or it gives the information about the instruction here. That is what is comments here. Okay, and also it may give the information regarding what are the input parameters here regarding the instruction here. Right now, how exactly this assembly language is converted into a machine level language? It is having certain sequence to be followed here. First, it is going to have a source file to be converted or translated into an object file here. Second is library file creation and usage here. Third one is linking and locating here. Fourth one, object file to hex file here. Okay, all right. So let us understand one by one the steps here concerned with the conversion of assembly language to machine level language here. So every source code or source module is written in assembly language here, which is having an extension of dot ASM, or it may having has a dot SRC source. SRC is the source. So once the source file has been written, okay, in assembly language here, the next is we need to combine here, right? Or you can say that we need to check the correctness of the particular file here, or you can say we need to look into the syntax errors here, right? or you can say compilation. We have to do this, right? After the successful removing of the errors here, or any incorrect statements or instructions has been written that needs to be removed out. After successfully removing all these things here, okay, so what is going to happen here is corresponding object file is created here. Okay, corresponding is nothing but source file corresponding object file is created, which has an extension of .obj, okay, which doesn't contain the what you can say the absolute address here. Meaning here is that code will be generated here, but it needs to be placed at certain place here, right? It needs to be placed in certain place here. Place is nothing but here again a program memory only here, right? Okay, so that's why it is called as this dot object file is called as relocatable segment here. Okay, sometimes dot object file is called as a relocatable segment here. Okay, but it is the responsibility of linker here or the locator here, which has to place this particular file into code or I can say program memory location here. Okay, this is what is your source file to object file translation. The second point is regarding the library files here. These are the files here which are generated with the .lib extension here, .lib extension here. So this is again nothing but here kind of a source code here, or you can say that source code hiding technique here, library file. Sometimes what happens here is that we don't want to disclose the source file here, or we don't want to distribute the source code here, but we want that source code to be utilized by any other application here. So what we do here is we create a library file. Okay, so that library file with certain functions and parameters will be created. After that, any of the applications can be utilized here. Any of the applications can utilize these library functions here, but cannot utilize the source code here. Okay, so that is what is the understanding of library file creation and usage here. Now linker and locator here. This is again another what you can say software here responsible for what it is now linking various object files here, as we have discussed in the first step here, linking various object files here. Okay, and trying to what you can say that assign absolute address here to the object file. The absolute address is not assigned to the object file in the first step here. It will be assigned in the third step here. Okay, uh, after that and we have to remember one point here, all the, or you can say that absolute object file or model does not contain any relocatable code here. We were having a relocatable code or segment in the first step here. Here we don't have any relocatable code or data here because it has been assigned with some address here, absolute address. And whatever the data is there or whatever the code is there will reside in a fixed memory locations here. Okay, after the third step here we will go to the fourth step, that is object to hex file converter. What we are going to do, hex file is nothing but it is the representation of the machine code here, which is going to be dumped into the code memory of the processor here, right? Okay, so this representation of the hex file can vary here depending upon the processor or controller target here. Nothing but different processors may have the different hex file here, right? The same controller also. Okay, based on the destination controller and the processor here, our hex file representation may change here. Okay, so it is nothing but here hex file is nothing but again ASCII file here. Okay, representing the hexadecimal here of the target application or processor or controller here. Okay, this is what is the four steps involved in converting the assembly language to machine level language. Okay, Once we have done with this conversion and introduction of the assembly language, let us move to the next slide here, where we are trying to understand regarding the advantages and disadvantages of the assembly language based development here. So usually it is a very common technique adopted from the very beginning of the embedded technology here, or very beginning of the embedded development environment here. So there are certain advantages here. That is efficient code memory and data memory usage here. The second one is high performance here. Third one is low level hardware access. Fourth one is code reverse engineering here. Okay, so let us understand one by one here in a very simpler manner. We try to understand here. So we people are very much aware of it. Whichever embedded product you consider here, memory is a primary concern here. We need memory here, right? Okay, so developer should be in a very understandable manner to know the memory organization here. Okay, so he or she should be in a very good position, or in a good mark to understand the memory organization of the particular targeted processor or microcontroller architecture here. Okay, so hence if developer is very efficient to understand the architecture here, hence he may be in a very good position to uh, write the perfect code here, okay, for performing any of the operations here. So hence this will lead to less utilization of the code memory here. If at all he understands the particular architecture, processor, and the memory organization perfectly, the developer can have or can reduce the code memory here, and also the best or efficient utilization of the data memory can be done here. That's the first point which we wanted to understand here: efficient code memory and the data memory usage here. Okay. The second point is high performance here. Effective assembly coding we have to do here. If at all we are very good uh, in coding the assembly language here, or you can say the writing the assembly language, uh, this comes with perfect knowledge of the architecture, and uh, or the developer should be very well versed with the target processor here, processor. Then only he could effectively write the code here. Once we write effectively the code here, the optimization, or you can say that we have good performance here. Good performance concerned with that particular code here, and also uh, we can say the target application. One of the best third point is whenever we try to have the access with the uh, uh, what you can say specific registers you consider, or any kind of an operating system kernel you consider, or you wanted to have an access with the interrupt routines here. So the best language is, or you can say the low language is the best one here. Assembly language is the best one for accessing the lower level hardware here. Okay. The last one is code reverse engineering here. What is this code reverse engineering? Nothing but here, it is a process of understanding the technology behind the product here, behind a product here, by extracting the information from a finished product. Once the product has been finished here, okay, after that we try to understand regarding the architecture, software, hardware. That is nothing but a reverse engineering. Let us move to the next one. It is drawbacks here. High development time, obviously. Every developer dependency, non-portable. These are the three disadvantages. Every technology will be having certain uh, pros and cons here. Okay. Uh, High development time. That is, what happens here is that assembly language is harder to program than the high level language, because assembly language programmer needs to understand the inner details of the architecture here, or you can say any processor or controller. He or she has to understand this inner architecture here, okay, or inner details here. Okay, right from understanding the architecture, right from the memory organization, right from the registry details, right from the external device to be connected, or any kind of an assembly instructions to be written here, he has to be very well aware here. He or she has to be very well aware here. But this takes or this consumes a lot of time here. Okay, in understanding this particular architecture here. Okay, so every processor or controller is not having the same architecture here, or every processor or architecture will not be having the same instructions to be utilized here. Different instructions will be there, different memory organization will be there. Hence it is time consuming here to understand first, and then again it it will impact, this will impact definitely the product development time here. And one more thing very important is there are you may require more lines of assembly code to implement one particular function here. But the same function can be implemented with a single line in high level language here. That is another part here where I could say that it is having a high development time. Second one is developer dependency here. Okay, there is no perfect or common rule for writing the assembly language here or assembly language based applications here. So developer has a very what you can say that freedom to choose any particular memory location, registers here, or uh, different programming approach, uh, and it is going to vary from developer to developer here. Okay. So if the particular developer is not documented the particular programming approach or the code here, it is a bit difficult here for the second programmer or in the future to understand that particular programming concept involved in that particular development stage here. So it becomes difficult to recollect the approach they have followed here. So hence upgrading the assembly language or modifying the particular program at the later stage, it's very difficult. That's why it is developer dependency here. Or one more point here is if we are having a code which is too large and it is very complex, and if the particular developer has not documented all the lines of a code here, then it is quite difficult to for the future productivity here. That's why it is completely dependent on the developer here. That's why we say developer dependency. Non-portable is there, obviously. We are very much aware of this thing. I think different processor, different controllers will be having a different architecture. Hence, we are writing the instructions in the assembly language as a different here. So it is non-portable. Once which is be utilized for one processor cannot be utilized in the second processor here. But only thing is the same processor family we can utilize here. Okay, that's why it is non-portable. These are the advantages and disadvantages concerned with the assembly language based development. Next, we'll move on to high level language based development here. Again, it is uh, here we are going to uh, have a level language programming here. We may be utilizing C or C++, Java, Python, or programming any high level language here, but it is less dependent on any particular processor or controller here. Again, it can be saved with an extension depending on the language we are trying to use here. C language with .c extension and C++ .cpp here, and here we require what we can say that cross compiler here, so that high level source code can be converted into executable object code here. uh, uh, there are again the steps, same steps involved as in the high level language. The source file to object file, library file creation, usage, linker and locator, and object file to hex file converter here. The same process that has been followed for the assembly-based language development here. It's not a right thing to repeat again the same process here. So I'm just continuing with other advantages and limitations here. Advantages are again advantages are, I think we have misplaced here. Advantages are reduced development time here. First one advantage is reduced development time here, as we are even if the developer is having less knowledge or little knowledge here regarding the internal hardware or architecture here, he is able to code here. That's why what is going to happen, the development time will reduce here. Again, developer dependency. Here, the high-level language is always set with certain rules. We are having certain set of rules to be followed here whenever we try to write a code here. We need to comment the piece of code. Okay, so there is a syntax that we need to follow here, which are universally set up here. Hence, what it is now, developer strictly adheres to the rules and 100%. It is not developer dependent here. It is developer independent here, right? So that's what we could say that it is developer independent here. The next one is portable. Yes, obviously, portability is more here. Okay, an application written in one high-level language can be converted into any particular target processor or controller code here with very less effort or less time here, provided the cross compilers are available here. Okay, so that is what is portable here. And the disadvantages here, again, the cross compilers is required here. Okay, without the cross compilers, I think we are not able to convert from high level to the executable code here, right? So the another high level language has very low access to the hardware here. Okay, only the low level languages are having access to this low level hardware here. Inefficient here. High level language cannot be used for the accessing the hardware in here or low level hardware here. Okay, so whatever the investment we require for developing a high level language program, it is very high comparable to the assembly language. Okay, uh, this completes the high level language based development here. The next one is mixing it, or you can say that mixing assembly language and the high level language. In this, again, we are having three ways to be discussed here: mixing assembly language with the high level language, and mixing high level language with the assembly language here. Last one, inline assembly programming here. So in the first case here, that is mixing assembly with the high level language here. So what we are going to discuss here is, see, the program would be written entirely in the C language here. Okay, only certain assembly routines are mixed with the C language here. Okay, only certain assembly links will be given here, or routines will be mixed with C language here. So here, what is going to happen here is that, provided we have uh, uh, what it is, cross compilers here, or you can say that provided cross compiler is not there. Sorry, yes, cross compiler is not there. Then we can use this particular thing here. That is mixing assembly language with high level language here. Okay, so if at all I wanted to have what you can say that access to the low level hardware here, okay, then I can mix the assembly language with the high level language here. Or an application is there here which is critical here, or I can say time critical here, then I can use this particular assembly language mixed with high level language here. Or the programmer wants to take the advantage of the speed here. Okay, so that's why I could utilize, or I could embed assembly language in the high level language. Okay, the next one is has it is built hardware and peripheral access code here. Whenever we try to access any of the hardware here, I have discussed it just now. hardware I wanted to access here or any kind of a peripheral access is required, I could utilize our assembly language here. Or you have to remember one thing here: whenever such kind of an assembly language is been embedded with the C language here, so you have to be very much aware of this parameters needs to be passed here. Right? Certain parameters are passed from the C language to the assembly language here, and assembly language will perform certain action or operation here, and then it returns back certain result here, right? So that parameter passing and receiving has to be very carefully coded properly here. Okay, so these are the points here which you have to understand from the point of the mixing assembly language with high level language. Next, we try to understand the mixing the high level language with the assembly here. See, there are what I can say that code has been written in assembly language here, where I wanted to have this high level language to be included here. Why? Because sometimes what happens here is that the code is very difficult to implement here, and it takes a lot of time to write that particular code, and also it is very tedious to write the particular code here, or tedious to understand here, right? So in assembly language, that's why what we do here is we try to, whenever such kind of a situation arises where you are not able to implement a particular concept or particular logic or particular application of the assembly language, we try to include this C language here. Okay, so that even at a certain point here, there are many library functions built up will be there, which are written in the C language also. That also we can utilize here. Okay, so we should be but again, it is again we could say that it is again cross compiler dependent here. It varies across different cross compilers here. Okay, this is what is mixing of high level language with assembly language here. The next one we try to understand inline assembly here. What is inline assembly here? Is nothing but it is another technique of inserting what you can say that the code here. That's it, inserting the code, okay, of assembly instructions into C language. Remember, assembly instructions into C language. Okay, the source code is written in high level language, nothing but C or C++ or Java or Python, whatever it is that. But assembly instructions are inserted in the high level language at any location here. That is the point you have to remember here. At any location, the assembly instructions are inserted into high level language and at any location. Okay, so this is going to have an advantage of what you can say delay in calling the routine here. Avoids delay. I have written here delay in calling. For example, what is going to happen here is that whenever we are trying to call the assembly instructions in the high level language or high level language in the assembly instruction here, what is going to happen? There is a delay in calling either assembly or high level language. So this technique avoids the delay here. Okay, so for that one, we are trying to use some specific or special keywords here, which will indicate the start and end of assembly instructions here. Again, the keywords are going to change uh, for the different cross compilers here, or you can say that keywords are very specific to one particular cross compiler here. Okay, so this is what is the understanding of mixing high level language or mixing both, that is assembly language and high language. Last topic which we wanted to discuss for today's is difference between this compiler or cross compiler C versus embedded here. What is compiler here? Compiler is nothing but here it is a kind of a software tool here which is trying to convert the source code written in the high level language to particular OSs on particular OS on which the specific target or processor or controller is running here, right? So that's why it is called as native compiler here. Why? Because it is going to generate a machine code for the same machine here on which it is running. Okay. Regarding the cross compiler here, this particular compiler is nothing but here, which is going to generate certain code for another machine here. Okay, so on one machine, it is we are having one particular code here, that is, let us consider high level language C language is there here, but we wanted different what you can say that processor or controllers code here. Okay, so what we do is we run using this cross compiler, we try to convert that high level language to particular processor or controller understandable code here. That is, it is going to run on one machine here, okay, able to execute the code for another machine here, different machine. Okay, usually it is required for multiple platforms here from one machine. Okay, multiple platforms on one machine here, or you can say that it is not going to it is going to provide a code, or it is going to create a code on which the compiler is not running here. Okay, okay. On one machine there is a cross compiler, we are trying to convert that particular code here. It is going to be the converted code to be executed on the machine where compiler is not utilized here. Okay, that is what is cross compiler here, right? Compiler is, it is going to provide a machine code for the same machine. Cross compiler is one, it is going to provide a machine code for the different machine where, or another machine where compiler is not there. Okay, so that is what is understanding of compiler and cross compiler here. Let us understand another two things here, that is C language and embedded C here. So I think you are very well aware of the C language here. That is, it is a well-structured, well-defined, standardized, general purpose programming language here. Okay, so we can combine the high level language also, and the ASL is nothing but an assembly language also here. It is going to follow something called as ANS sign standard. Okay, and having various library files here. Okay, which is going to be going to run a different operating system here, right? C language is going to run a different, it is not specifically concerned with one operating system here. Okay, that's why it is called as platform and there is a compiler also is there here. For compiler can be utilized for the conversion of the program which is written in C language to the target processor here. Hence, it is also called platform specific development here. For the specific target processor or controller also, this is C language. If at all we utilize the compiler here, we can convert it and give it to that particular platform specific development also here. Okay, embedded C is, again, it is the thing, but here it is same C language only, but it is subset of the, what you can say, that C language, conventional C language. It supports all the instructions, and also it is going to incorporate some of the processor or specific functions or instructions here. But here we require certain thing called as a cross compiler here for conversion of the programs written in embedded C to the particular target processor controller specific instructions here. Okay. So these things you remember regarding the C language and embedded C here. I hope all the 5 slides and the topics which I discussed is clear here. Thank you.